Um, so y'all heard me griping and moaning and groaning and cleaning the film holders. And for future reference, those of you watching this video 2 years from now, these film holders do not need to be handled with wet hands. They need to not be handled with wet hands. And they need to be placed. This room is a little complicated because you have, stuff that really needs to be dry from here over. And then you've got a sink right here. So I understand how it happens. But please, 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 for the love of God, do not put these film holders where they can get chemical splashes while you're developing your film in the dark. So I would really prefer it if, and I've got a whole stack of 4 that I checked out for you. These are old film boxes, and so they open up just the way your film does, your film box. Your film is safe when it's in the bag, fold it over, it's in the first box, ooh, I got it wrong. So it's a box inside a box inside a box, right? Now the light can go in and bounce off that other side, so they added another box layer, and now the light would have to go in this, bounce off of it, go in here, bounce out of that, go up in here, and hit that. Why doesn't your photo paper have that big elaborate deal? Because your photo paper, remember your pinhole, is like ISO 2. This is ISO 400, and every time the number doubles, the sensitivity doubles. So this is a lot more sensitive to light. I know that's a lot of explanation, but I think that's really useful to know, just to kind of like get yourself in the mindset of why this is how it is. These two don't have double boxes, but the bag is like a double layer bag. I even put 2 bags in there so you could put a bag within a bag. So what I would do is, and we're just going to simulate this in the light right now. Let's say this was shot, and this was shot. Go in the hole. Alright, so you would come in and your film holders would be the black tabs up on both sides. I tend to set up in here where I have the dry, expensive stuff over here on this side of the baseboard, right? And then these guys are the film hangers. And these are going to transport your film through the chemicals for you. The way these are made, there's this top bracket that flips down and holds it so that the film doesn't kind of float out of the top. And so what it looks like to put the film in is that. It's just going to go in like that, and then you're going to push that down. And now it's great. You don't have to worry about touching the emulsion, scratching it, or anything like that. You hold these like this. And so knowing that I have to load it in the dark, I set them up with the cover on the baseboard down, so that I know that as I'm grabbing them off of there, like however many I have that I've got to develop, I put those out there, and I make darn sure they're dry, because I don't want water getting on my film before I put it in there. It'll make spots. So I'll just like arrange a group of them, and I'm going to show you with 4 how to do this, just because that's kind of a good number to start with. It's pretty easy to manage in the little tank. Y'all are probably going to start with 1 just to really begin, but if you had a couple of film holders. So if you're concerned about not getting in trouble for getting the film holders wet, you could just take all your film out of your film holders and put it in this box. And also, if someone else is going to use the camera after you, probably your film is going to be in here anyway. So that can be done in any totally dark room. It can be done at home using the film changing bag that is stored with the camera. But you know, you can use the film loading room back there. You can use this. There is a little bit of a crack that happens in the door. Some light comes through, but I just don't change my film right there. You know, I do it right here, and I have never had a problem with it. So that, I guess, is what I would do, is like go into total darkness, grab the film, put it in the bag. Oh good, I had 2 pieces in that same side. That's why this film holder is not allowed to play with real film anymore. It's like kind of lost its tolerance. And I try to put them where the emulsion side's all going the same way, just so that when I'm handling, I know what I'm dealing with. So that's what I would do. And to take it out, notice it's got a little divot right here to allow your fingernail to slip underneath and pull the film out. Try to fish it in there pretty gently so it's not scratching on the other film. Like, I cannot believe she loaded 4 sheets of film just to show us how to unload 4 sheets of film. It never hurts to have a little review. So you have that. These things, make sure you folded this all the way closed before you hold it pinched shut before you slide it shut. That'll keep the damage that has ruined this film holder from happening. So now you see, I mean, if you come in with this, these guys don't even need to come into the room of wetness and danger. And you can just come in with your box. So when I set up, the first thing I'm going to do before I worry about getting the film into the hangers is, with the lights on, I'm going to set up to, get the chemicals ready. These are all labeled with what goes in them and the order that they take in the developing process. I'm fairly proud of that information there. I'm going to say water, number 5, water, number 3, that comes then before 4, right? Yay! Number 2 is D76. What? How can the developer be the second step, you say? We're adding water. Step 1. The water, because you've got such a humongous area of emulsion, the water is going to absorb into it and then help the D76 flow in more evenly. Think about putting an ink marker down on a wet paper towel versus a dry one. It's going to spread more evenly. You also followed that principle when you toned your photographs. You got them wet first and then you put them in the toner. So, if you did toning. If you didn't do toning, you didn't do that. So the easy thing about setting up is now, check that out, every other one gets water. It's beautiful. Why do we use water for stop baths instead of regular stop baths? Because the emulsion is kind of fragile. You're more likely to have that acid of the stop bath cause little tiny pinholes in your emulsion if it's too strong. And so if we just dunk it in and out of regular water, we're doing the same thing we would need to do with the stop bath. We're halting the action of the developer. We're rinsing off that developer so that it's less basic, more neutral. So there, I'm halfway set up, right? Yay, I've got developer and fixer left to do. And I tend to just leave a jug of fixer up here. It's labeled Fix B from when it was used for developing paper, but it doesn't, there's nothing special. As you know from the back, it's just fixer. And the cool thing about this little fixer tub is it's got a floating lid and a little plastic lid that seals on top. So you'll be able to leave the fixer in here in between rounds if you want. I mean, as long as you test it. You want to test it and make sure it's still good. So before you go to develop your film, just put a drop in there, make sure it doesn't get milky, and then you know you're good. The lid, here's what's called a floating lid. It's just literally going to do what it sounds like. It's going to float on top of the chemicals, and now no air is getting to those chemicals, right? Except right around the edge. And then it's lid for fixer. Deb and her labels. Deb loves her some labels. So between those two things, the fixer's not going to dry out and get all gross in here if you put that on whenever you're done. And developer, if y'all are working together and saying, okay, you know, I'm going to develop my film, it uses a good bit of developer. We've got to fill these things all the way so that the film really does submerge into it. You don't want to just put it like halfway and have your film not reach in all the way. So that winds up being a pretty good amount of developer, or a bad amount if you're paying for it. It's a lot of developer. So if y'all kind of communicate and say, hey, I'm going to develop my one sheet of film at such and such a time. If you want to do years after, then you can jump in there. This much, once you've made this much developer, it'll do like 6-8 sheets even with it before it exhausts. After that, dump it down the drain and make fresh. But, you know, it seems like a shame to make this much developer for one sheet of film and then throw it away. But you can. I mean, the point is we're learning here. But I'd rather once you get started that you shoot a little more so you're not, you know, wasting things. So the developer is the same stuff as out front. You're going to do just the same times. I'll hold up a better one. HP5 Plus, you know, if that's the film you bought, you're going to go by the same exact agitation pattern and everything that you did with your roll film. You're going to be surprised how much you remember how to do in the dark when you do this, actually, because you'll think, oh my God, I always relied on all the signs, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, no. You know, if you slow down and you think about it, you're like, okay, the developer time for HP5 Plus is, and you go look it up, and you go, all right, it's 13 minutes, or whatever it is, I don't even remember. I think it's 13 minutes. If the D76 is 1:1. So, we have a timer over here, and again, you're not going to want to be reaching up and grabbing the timer and everything during the process. You need your hands down here, so you're going to need to go back to that process that I tried to get you doing in the first place, which is once you get ready to start, spin that dial so that it's just going to be continuously counting down. I even have a little rare earth magnet with a glow-in-the-dark arrow on it for you. And so you can stick that, aiming at the place where when the minute hand gets to it, that'll be the end of your developing. So what I do is, like, I plan to start my film in the D76 when this hand has, you know, when it's right on 50. Because, like, I can deal with that math, counting down from 50. It's an even, ends in a 0. And I just, like, spin it until it needs to get back to that place until I'm, you know, whatever.
So you can see the clock in the dark?
Yes, I put on auxiliary glow-in-the-dark paint, so it'll be bright enough for you. You can even see it's kind of peeling off of there, but, like, yeah, it's a solid piece of glow-in-the-dark paint, tape. But I'm seeing some ugly chemical stains on that. Please don't grab that clock with chemical hands. You don't need to. Like, you just set it up before you're in the chemicals, make it go, and then, you know, you shouldn't need to touch it again until you're cleaning up later. Actually, you shouldn't need to touch it again because it'll just go off. So, I put this stuff usually closer to the front rail. I kind of spaced it back. I don't know if you guys can even see, but, you know, it's just left to right. And the water, I put it pretty close up against this edge, followed by the other chemicals with really not too much gap in between them, and that's because when I'm doing this in total darkness, that way I'm not going to be like putting it in between the tanks by accident, thinking I'm doing it. You'll be able to tell. You can feel with your hands the width of one of the tanks, and then guide your hands, your film down into it. You'll be fine. This guy's wet, so he's going back up in here. Hang these up on the little metal wire when you're done with them. Rinse them off thoroughly and hang them up to dry. If they're not totally dry when you go to develop your film, use that hair dryer over there, just like you would on the reels on the roll film stuff.
How long do you do the water for the first one?
So yeah, let's talk about the overall process. What's going to happen is the water is just like a holding area. If you think about it, as I load each one of these sheets into the film hanger, I guess I could load them all into the film hangers over here, pick them all up one at a time and move them in there. But what I think really is more commonly done, rather than risk scratching the emulsion, is like, so imagine, the lights are all off. That actually works reasonably well, but the door would be shut. So I generally set up by very, very dry hands. I'll set it like that, so that each one of these is easy to grab and load. And in the text, they even have it totally out of here, just sideways in the box like that. That makes me nervous. Like if I've got a lot of film to load and I just feel like that emulsion is facing the crack in the door, I don't know that that's even a thing, but whatever way you want to do it. So I'll load it up, and as I load it, I'm just going to land it in that water, because the water isn't changing anything about the film, it's just getting it wet. So I'll like grope over here, go, oh yeah, there's the water, clunk. Grab the next one, put it in there, close the top, into the water.
Does it matter which way you put the film?
No, thank God.
Yeah.
Finally something where it really doesn't matter. And it's easier to load these than the stupid little reels, isn't it? Mm-hmm. There's some small blessings in this process. So once you're sure, like if you had an extra piece that you're not developing, put it back in the bag. Don't forget, because you'll get all excited and turn on the light to check your film, and then you're going to be all set. So do that. So now all my film is hanging out in this water. There's not any real set amount of time. Probably by the time you've put that last piece in, turned around, and gotten the clock set, like, okay, I'm about ready to start. Now it's counting down toward 50. Sweet, I'm ready to go. That's how much time it needs. But it could sit in there for 5-10 minutes. It wouldn't care. So now as the clock comes around up to the top, I'm going to grab my little pod of film, holding on to it like this, sort of, so it's really kind of hanging here. If you pinch it too much and you've got a lot of them, it'll tend to go out. Can y'all see all that on the, like, see what's dripping off of it? Ew. That is what we call anti-halation dye, my friends. Don't be alarmed when you pour that water out at the end and it is like green or blue. That is a dye that's built into your film deliberately so that light coming into the camera, exposing your film, doesn't bounce off the back of either your camera or the film holder and re-expose it on the way out. That's built into all film. You may have not even noticed it whenever you were developing your roll film. So this, I'm just going to pick it up, and when the time comes to start developing, I'm going to submerge it into this tank. I'm going to move this over just so that y'all can see a little better. But it's just like before. What did you usually do when you first poured the developer into your roll film tank? Yeah. Agitate. We're not going to, for obvious reasons, we're not doing this. So we're picking this up turning it this way, putting it down, picking it up, turning it the other way to make sure we don't establish too much of a pattern as the chemicals flow. And you're just going to keep doing that. So it's submerged, it's up, it's out, but now it's running off, it's submerged. So remember, with agitating, the whole point is just to bring fresh chemistry in contact with your film. That's the only role of it. So that's why we're doing this. So that's going to be continuous agitation until the clock comes around to the 30-second mark. And then we're just going to leave it, because it's got to just sit. And then every time it passes the 30 and every time it passes the 0, we're going to pick it up and do one agitation cycle, which amounts simply to that. And it's actually, I'm holding it with one hand to show y'all, but what that would really look out like to you is like going like this. And as far as the pace, kind of aim for, it should take you about 15 seconds or less to do that. So too fast and you get marks from the chemicals moving too fast over the film, too slow, and I don't know, you just aren't doing it right. So when you get to the end of your 13 minutes, when you see this little hand come around, you simply pick it up, grope for the next thing, and in it goes. And what do you do for stop baths, y'all remember?
The whole time.
You just agitate the whole time. What else about this is helpful to remember is that which of these chemicals has the biggest impact on how well your pictures come out? Yeah, the developer. If I don't develop it right, like the temperature's wrong, the time is wrong, the agitation is wrong, or I diluted it wrong, then I have a problem, right? Developer is the thing where it's going to be too dark and contrasty, or it's going to be too pale and there's barely anything there. So once you've gotten to the step I'm at right now, the stuff is a lot less stressful. It should be. Like, you think, oh my God, I've got to do all this in the dark, but really, the only thing you got to get really precise about is your developer. If you go for a minute in the stop bath, that's good. Agitate continuously, move to the fixer. What do we always do in the fixer? Agitate continuously for a while. First 45 seconds is technically what you're supposed to do. So just go for the first 45 seconds. Let it rest for 15. That's your first minute. Somewhere during the second minute, pick it up. Ooh, this stuff smells like a skunk. Maybe that's what happens when you develop film, like when you fix film that wasn't actually completely clear to the, oh my God. What is wrong with this fixer? You might be changing your fixer. It smells very skunky. Also, this brings up a point. Up in this corner, you have an air filter, and here's my method. You may wish to bring in the little stool, but I stick a foot here, put firm backward pressure on here, and jump up in there. But yeah, I recommend the stool. You just turn it, and now what it's doing is great. It just sucks in the chemicals right from here, away from your face, brings them through a filter and blows them upward, clean into the ceiling area above. So I would put that on while you're working. I'm going to turn it off just because it's loud right now. And so, I never used to have this tray here, and I just discovered, now my foot gets stuck. So fixer, now you're home free. After 2 minutes, what do you get to do with a fixer? If you're out there, you get to look, right? Remember, with fixer, it's twice the clearing time. So, get to have the lights on. And so this is the best part of 4x5 development ever, is that moment after 2 minutes in the fixer when you're like, okay, did I get it? Did I get it? In this case, it looks like they maybe didn't pull the dark slide all the way, or no, I don't even know what happened there, but But yeah, you know, so you can hold it up, see if your film is clear. It's really easy to see if it's clear because you're looking at the whole sheet. And if it is, great. Back in for 2 more minutes, right? Twice the clearing time. If it's not clear, back in for 1 minute, check it again. And then you're just going to go, that's not clear. Then you're going to just go into water, which is just going to be a rinse situation. And I just sort of run it, put my hands on here, pour it out, etc. a couple times. We're just rinsing it so that the permawash doesn't get a bunch of picture in it, just like we would do out in the other roll film developing process. So you do that a bit. You have a lovely tank for permawash, number 6. And so after you've done that, you would, and just score some permawash from out front and fill the tank with it. Continuous agitation for 2 minutes, but again, now you can just go look out there and see everything that you got to do. So I think the biggest thing is, like, don't freak out that you're going to forget, because you're going to be amazed at how much you remember. You know, you're like, all right, all I have to do from when the night light goes off is remember 13 minutes and the every 30-second agitation thing for that first chemical. The second one, I'm just going to agitate for a minute, then I'm going to go in the stop bath, or in the fixer for 2 minutes. So it's like 13 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, turn on the lights! And then run out and see what all you forgot at the other chart.
So you can leave the lights on after?
Yeah, like once it's fixed, you're groovy, you know? Think about it, with the cap on the tank, anything that you can do with your roll film with the lid off, you can do in here with the lights on, because the tank lid is essentially what is keeping everything dark, like the door and the light switch are to this room. With me, when it comes time to wash this, I sort of like to just pour the permawash back into the permawash container and then use this very container as my wash, because I know it's clean, it's just been permawashed, right? I'm not so crazy about putting it back into this, although these are high-grade plastic that should not absorb chemicals, so it should in theory be fine to wash this out, you know, rinse it out with water, and then do your washing in there. But do remember to rinse it if you do. Like, don't just use whatever water was just in there and put your perma-washed film back into it. Either way, whatever you do, it's just the same sort of thing. You're going to fill it all the way up, maybe, you know, agitate a little bit, pour it out, and repeat for, what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you normally wash film. At the end of that, I have this lovely little tray for putting the distilled water in there, and maybe 2 or 3 drops of the photo flow concentrate that helps the water sheet off and not dry in little spots. So I've got a little bottle of distilled water for y'all here. Just put that in. You can stack all your film, take it out of these film holders and put it in there. And then what I do is I hang it up in the cabinet. Let's see, let's rotate this nice little display. Oh, I love it, it's so wide it shows. This is our personal 4x5 film drying cabinet. And it's got these innovative little inventions. So they're that way so that they can be spaced out and the film doesn't need to touch. Here is some from a previous demo hung up. You just want to, when you take it out of the photo flow, you know, take it out, you know, let it drip from one corner and then clip it just right up on that edge. Definitely, I have no idea who was doing it. Someone, one semester was curious, I guess. I had developed a bunch of film and I had it in there drying, and like, just so you know, etiquette is don't touch other people's crap when it's in the thing. I think you all know that. I swear to you, I came back like 3 times, and someone had, I don't know, did they knock my film down? Did they check it and get curious? They clipped it back up like this. I'm like, do you know how much spying you just gave me to do? Like, I've got to rebuild that area where the little nasty clippies got on it. So you want it clipped on enough so that it's not going to drop your film on that. But, you know, try to line it up so the wood is not clamping into your image area too significantly. You'll find, like, this side is going to have a pretty good amount of clear space because that's where, when you aimed it into the film holder, it just forms a natural clear area.
So you don't squeeze it, you just let it drip?
No, yeah, I don't. It's sort of the wrong shape to squeegee, and I guess that's why I am more of a fan of photo flow for this stuff than the other roll film. Like the roll film, I feel like, man, if you have gone ahead and put it into distilled water with nothing in it, and you've rinsed your hands with distilled water, squeegeeing it ought to be fine. But this stuff, it's like I sort of want there to be one more little thing to make the stuff sheet off. But that's it. This does not have a fan associated with it, not one that works. And we really wouldn't want it. That wide film would flap around and become damaged. So you just let it chill out and dry. If you want to speed it up a little bit, you can take a tiny piece of a photo wiper, you know, something really clean, and dot it on the end, you know, the corner where that one drip is forming to sort of suck that off of there by capillary action. But yeah. So yeah, as far as cleaning up, back to here. The big thing is rinse everything. This photo flow thing seems to hang out pretty well right here. I'm going to set this guy out of the way. That's been useful. But I put a drainage board in here, so this drains out into the sink. It's not going to, you know, you can put wet things in here. And so just put them upside down so the water that comes out of them is going to drip down there. These guys, make sure that the last thing that was on them was water, not photo flow or anything like that. Thanks for nothing, film. Bye. Don't handle your film like this. Yeah, so just, especially since I was doing that sort of half-hearted fixer demo, I'm just rinsing them off. And then you can hang them up. And we should have, yeah, there are 4 more dry ones that I haven't messed with over there. Plus I've got some more in my office that we got donated. So, are y'all gonna stay? You gonna stay? Okay. Look, can you? You can't really see it. I'm gonna change out the water for you. But normally you would just put everything in there, except for the fixer, which you would cover. And then I know what else I was gonna tell you is that we do also have a floating lid for Mr. Developer. And it's different shape than the fixer, so you won't mix them up. Isn't that handy? So, like, if you do it, and then you're like, I'm gonna go get dinner, and then I'm gonna come back at like, 8:30 and do it, or something like that. Not tonight, 'cause it's Friday, but you know, you could put the floating lid on just to buy a little time in between.
How long can you leave the fixer in there?
The fixer, really, I would say for this whole unit, y'all could just leave the fixer in there covered. I feel like that is the same difference as how it's stored in the tank and everything else. So just so that you remember to check it, because that's a fairly small volume. And when it's expired, you just pour it into the exhausted fixed tub in the back and grab yourself some more out of any one of these little guys. Yeah. What's that? I'm sorry.
Can you only develop in this room, or can you go in the back?
I wouldn't use the back because what if someone wants to print? Like, yeah, that's a little much to sort of take over. This is nice because it's got the deep sink to keep the light from cracks in the door. It's got the timer right there. I don't even know if the back room gets dark enough for film. Like, for the film to be out that full time. I know I've loaded film back there with the beginning photo class, but there's that big crack that goes into art history. Like, dark enough for paper is not the same as dark enough for film. So, put that little dude there. Oh, that's E76. This is your water. And I will stop the video.